The moment Daniel asked about the jet, everything stopped. We were in the middle of my sister's engagement dinner, seated at a table dressed in navy linens and gold cutlery that screamed Instagram-worthy. The patio twinkled with string lights. A private chef served scallops over fennel puree. Conversations buzzed, wine flowed, and laughter echoed, until that one question cut through the noise like a blade. "Hey, Evelyn," Daniel said casually. "This might sound weird, but did I see your name on a jet in St. Bart's last weekend? It said Walker Code, Gulfstream G600?" Every fork froze mid-air. A hush fell so suddenly it was like someone hit mute on the entire event. My mother stiffened. Jessica, the bride-to-be, blinked too slowly. She had spent the last 2 hours reminding everyone she was the accomplished one. She curated the playlist, the seating chart, the lighting, even the servers' uniforms. This was her night. I wasn't even supposed to be in focus. I met Daniel's gaze, calm and precise. "That's me." My cousin nearly dropped his wine glass. Someone whispered, "No way." And Jessica? She turned visibly pale. The irony? I hadn't planned for any of it. I'd shown up 20 minutes late on purpose, just enough to skip the forced small talk and performative hugs. I wasn't wearing anything flashy, no designer heels, just a plain black sheath dress and a smile that didn't reach my eyes. This wasn't revenge, but it felt like one. I hadn't told them about the jet, or the company, or the 9-figure acquisition deal that came with more NDAs than I cared to count. I'd built it all in silence. Walker Code started as a scrappy courier logistics platform in my cramped apartment in Seattle. I ate instant noodles and coded through migraines while my family laughed about my bargain lifestyle back home in Ohio. They never asked what I was building. They assumed I had failed. Or worse, just plateaued. Jessica once called me quirky in a bridal shower speech, said I was committed to simplicity. That was her euphemism for invisible, and I let it go, again and again. But something about tonight, the way she leaned over earlier and said, "You look comfortable," scanning me up and down like I was an underwhelming guest in her curated narrative, something in me had quietly snapped. Daniel tilted his head, confused. "Wait, you're the Evelyn Walker? The one who led the Eastern freight buyout?" I gave him nothing but a nod. The silence said everything. Jessica let out a laugh that was a little too loud, too late. "She's joking, right?" I placed my napkin on the plate, stood up slowly. "Actually, I've got an early flight tomorrow." "But dessert's not even out yet," my mother said too quickly. "I know." As I walked past the stunned faces, faces that had spent years dismissing me, speaking about me like I was a cautionary tale, I didn't feel smug. I felt done. A kind of peace that didn't need applause or acceptance. The porch lights behind me glowed soft and golden, but I didn't look back. Jessica might try to rewrite what happened that night. Spin some narrative where I got lucky or partnered with the right people. But the truth had landed, right in the middle of her perfect dinner. And this time, she wasn't the one holding the pen. If you've ever been dismissed until the truth spoke for itself, type 1. 3 days after the dinner, I opened my inbox and saw the subject line, "Urgent, internal access breach detected." My CTO, Maya, had flagged a suspicious download attempt on our private contract archive. Someone had used a cloned credential key, traced to an outdated partner profile. The IP address? Columbus, Ohio. My hometown. The surname on the log? Langford. My cousin. I sat back in my chair, jaw tightening. Langford was Jessica's sidekick at every family gathering, the one who once said I was probably just doing freelance coding when someone asked what I'd been up to. And now? He was snooping around in a database protected by 3 levels of encryption. I didn't need confirmation. I knew who had asked him to do it. I forwarded the breach report to legal with a brief note. Initiate access revocation. No escalation unless provoked. EW. Then I closed my laptop and stared at the skyline outside my office window. Seattle's gray calmness felt like a shield. Back in Ohio, they were stirring. Jessica's Instagram was suddenly quieter. No ring photos, no wedding updates, just vague quotes about betrayal and fake support. The fallout from the engagement dinner was unfolding, offstage, petty, and entirely predictable. I'd spent years playing it quiet, never offering more than they asked for, because they never really wanted to know. They wanted versions of me that made them feel better about themselves. The invisible sister, the frugal one, the cautionary tale. They never saw the all-nighters. The lawsuit I filed at 27 when my ex-boss stole my early code and tried to sell it to a competitor. I won. Quietly. No headlines. Just a check, a lesson, and fuel. That money became seed capital for Walker Code. But they only saw what I didn't show, and now that the curtain had lifted, just a sliver, they were scrambling to pull it back down. I got a message from my mother that afternoon. Just 4 clipped words. Why didn't you say? No greeting, no punctuation, just accusation hidden under pretend curiosity. I didn't respond, because that wasn't a question. It was control wearing a soft voice. What she really meant was, why didn't you let us script your success? Later that evening, a text from Jessica landed like a pebble thrown at glass. You could have warned me. Do you know how embarrassing that was for me? I stared at the screen, stunned by the lack of awareness. Her? I replied. You spent a decade calling me invisible. I simply stopped correcting you. She left it on read. The next morning, my cousin Langford tried to cover his tracks with a cheery LinkedIn message. Would love to chat about potential collaborations. Big fan of what you're doing with freight decentralization. I forwarded it to HR and flagged his access as permanently banned. No reply, no fuss, just consequence. Meanwhile, Daniel messaged again. I owe you an apology. I didn't realize how deep all this ran. You deserved better. I didn't ask what he meant, but I could guess. Jessica must have spiraled, turning my quiet existence into her latest crisis. He was seeing the cracks now, the curated perfection unraveling. I replied, some stories don't need defending. They just need space to end. Sometimes silence isn't surrender. It's a strategy. It's survival. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's the most unsettling response you can give. Because silence forces people to sit with the version of you they tried to erase. If you've ever had your worth questioned until you were no longer quiet, type 2. The flagged security alert came in at 6:17 a.m. Attempted transfer of internal contracts. Unauthorized access blocked. I blinked hard, rereading the metadata. The IP? A familiar one. Ohio again. The file? A confidential partnership agreement with our newest European carrier. This wasn't a casual poke around the system. It was targeted. I called Maya, already at her desk. Confirmed? I asked. Confirmed, she said grimly. Same backdoor pathway, but this time they tried to export it. Full contract packet. How far did they get? Not far. Our AI flagged it in under 30 seconds. I revoked the token. I let out a breath, slow and even. And the source? She hesitated. Jessica's fiancé, Daniel's personal device. For a second, my pulse froze. I called Daniel. He answered on the second ring, voice groggy. Hey, Evelyn, this is early. Everything okay? I didn't waste words. You accessed proprietary data last night. What? He sounded genuinely confused. Contract archives, under a credential cloned from Langford's old account. No, Evelyn, I swear to God, I didn't... He paused. Jessica was on my laptop. She needed to print something, but wait, are you saying she... Silence. I let it hang. I'm not calling legal, yet, I said calmly. But that was your final courtesy call. He whispered something I couldn't make out. I get it now, he said finally. You weren't trying to show off at dinner. You were surviving. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. 2 hours later, a mass email popped into my inbox. Jessica had sent it to half the family. Subject line, privacy isn't power. The body? A bizarre manifesto about how money doesn't make character, and some people use silence to manipulate sympathy. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to spam. I spent the afternoon drafting a new internal memo to my team. No names. Just a reminder of our core principle. We protect what we build. Integrity is not a performance, it's policy. I closed my laptop, booked a last-minute charter on the Gulf Stream, and left for Iceland that night. No reason, just instinct. Sometimes you don't escape, sometimes you rise. Somewhere over the North Atlantic, I stared out at the cloudscape below. The sky broke open in streaks of soft blue and gold. For the first time in years, I felt weightless, not because of altitude, but because I'd finally put the story down. They could keep talking. They could call me cold, distant, ungrateful. They could write a dozen versions of who they thought I was. None of it would matter. I no longer lived in their world. I had outgrown it. Back in Seattle, I made one final decision: a donation. Quiet, but strategic. $50,000 toward my niece's tuition. I didn't sign my name. I didn't want thanks. Just the knowledge that cycles could be broken, even if grace wasn't reciprocated. Jessica would hear about it eventually, and twist it into something ugly. But I didn't do it for her. I did it for the girl I used to be, the one who sat alone on the back porch while everyone else ate birthday cake she helped bake. Sometimes you don't need to pull out chairs at someone else's table. You build your own, one that doesn't ask you to shrink, one that doesn't seat shame next to celebration. And when they finally look over, curious, confused, too late, you don't have to wave them in. You just keep building. If you've ever chosen peace over permission, type 3.